Charles Manson was admitted to a hospital in Los Angeles earlier today for an undisclosed illness. I, for one, don't care what the illness is, but I hope it's slow and painful. Come on, 2017, try to make up a little bit for 2016. Trump Report starts now!
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin!
Everybody, from everyone here at the Trump Report, I'm Christian Bladt at Christian DMZ. To my left, your right, if you're watching on YouTube, Chelsea Galicia at Chelsea Galicia. Did I say I'm at Christian DMZ? Maybe I didn't. I'm really bad with the plugs. And yes, indeed, we're here celebrating freedom with the late, great George Michael. I thought about using the I Don't Want Your Freedom from Wham, but no, Freedom 90 is where it's at. That is why this episode is Freedom 2017.
I love it.
Chelsea, welcome to 2017.
Thank you. I would like how we went dark, really, at just the get-go of 2017.
Look, that's the way 2016 ended. It ended very dark. You know, you're like, oh, that's so terrible that Carrie Fisher died. Oh, her mom's dead too. So, you know, let's just turn the page.
I was choosing to interpret it like she said, her mom said she wanted to be with her, and so it was a choice.
Sure.
So it took the sting out a little bit. I'm trying to see that one in its most positive light. The way I'm trying to see all of 2017.
You're always looking for silver lining, and that's why we have a segment on the show called Progressive Silver Lining.
Yes, I do appreciate
which we appreciate. And we're also joined on the phone by our friend Scott Moore at SMan80. Scott, Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year. I'm glad to at least be able to be here audioly, or however you say it, whatever word I can make up.
Yeah, we actually hired the people to make like the Tupac hologram of you, but at the last second we couldn't boot it up, so we're just gonna have you on Skype. But maybe next week we'll have you as the Tupac hologram, or maybe we'll have the Tupac hologram.
Oh, hey, Scott, are you still in Florida?
No, I'm back in LA. I just couldn't get over there in time. So.
Oh, what's the vibe like in Florida? Like, is there like a celebratory, like, woohoo Trump vibe going on down there?
No. Actually, most of the people I talked to that were Republicans were not supportive of them down there. So it was interesting.
So who'd they vote for?
Yeah. They didn't vote for president. A couple people I talked to actually left it blank.
Yeah, that's what I was reading, is that we've been led to believe that Trump was elected because people came out for him, but the reality is that Democrats did not come out, is my final understanding of the numbers.
Right, people did not come out in big numbers, and so therefore he kind of won by default in a weird way.
Well, I don't know, Does that cheer you up at all, Chelsea, or does that just leave you right where you were with some New Year's blues?
There's like less evil Americans.
Oh, well, all right. But, look, not just because somebody voted for Trump doesn't mean they're evil. We have Trump voters in the chat room. They're not evil people because they have great taste in television.
This is true. Not all of them are. But it was just like, are there more... I can get that there's less Hillary-excited people because I was among them.
Yes.
So if that's what lost it, I can appreciate and accept that more than there's just a lot of really racist, misogynist, supporting people out there.
I mean, there are those people, but I think that they're not everybody, and I think that.
And so instead of like racist bigots up here, Hillary support, it's like the reason why it was more like this, and it's just this manipulation I have done to make myself feel better about the country I live in and my fellow Americans.
Well, see, that's good.
It's working so far.
Yeah, we're 3 days into the new year, so let's hope that we can keep the sunny disposition for a little bit longer.
I don't know. These Republicans are really getting under my skin.
We're gonna start with something. Right. We're gonna start with something good. We're gonna start with the aforementioned progressive silver lining, which one day maybe we'll do like a theme for that or a graphic or something. But until then, I'll just keep saying, hey, maybe one day we'll do that. Scott, chime in with your thoughts for what the House Republicans tried to do late last night and what they were forced to basically undo this afternoon.
Well, I thought that the whole thing of having the ethics oversight that they tried to get rid of it, and literally in the middle of the night, it was a very shady move on their part, and it backfired. Of course, people were saying, oh, it's because Trump tweeted about that, and But in reality, there were actually a lot of Republican voters, a lot of voters that actually were very upset by this and called their congressmen and congresswomen and said this is not acceptable. A lot of people were very angry by that. And even though I don't always agree with Trump's tweets, and I know that he couched it with, oh, this is definitely important to get rid of the ethics oversight, but just not right now.
Yeah.
But not right now. But I do agree with the fact that it was a very dumb move on their part to be focused on something like that in the middle of the night. They could get away with it when, again, there's so many more important issues that they claim they're supposed to be helping with for the American voters here that just voted them all back in here. And instead, this is one of the first things that they do in the middle of the night, and it doesn't set a good precedent for the administration or the Republicans, really, in my opinion.
It's just they're so brazen. Like, they're not even trying to hide their shadiness. They're like,
no, they're not.
Guns a-blazing. We want down with any body of people. And this is a nonpartisan group that might out us for what we're up to. We don't want these allegations to go public. We want them to be handled in-house by us. We want to police ourselves.
Internally.
Right, and that's what I thought was interesting because, obviously, of course, President-elect Trump tweeted about it because that's how he always lets us know what he's thinking. But at the same time, you get the feeling that he was pretty pissed that it's like, I'm not even in yet. There's a lot of scrutiny. There's going to be a lot of criticism immediately for anything that I do. I don't need this. What the hell are you guys doing? And I don't know. I think that when I heard it happen, I heard about it this morning. I'm like, well, of course they did that. All right. I was very surprised that they undid it. Not that they undid it at all, but that they undid it so quickly. And Scott, to your point, I think that there is something to be said for if enough people make those calls. We see a lot of that on Facebook. Hey, you should call this person and say that. If you do it enough, the actual representative or senator or whatever, they're not getting that call, but their office is going to be kind of pissed to the extent where they're like, hey, everyone's calling about this. Do you want to get reelected? You might want to at least think about it.
Do you have your senators and congressmen's number on speed dial? I think I do. Actually,
do you?
Don't. Well, hold on. I don't have Kamala Harris's in here because I don't even know does she have a number out? Maybe she already does.
She might. Well, she should. She should have an office in
But
the
I
staff.
do have still Adam
Here's the thing.
Schiff's
I'm sure our friend Drexel has it. I guarantee that he probably has her on speed dial. And on
a first name basis.
Yeah, the old days when you used to pick your fave 5 on your cell phone plan. I'm pretty sure that Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton were 2 of Drexel's 5, and the 3 of us were the others. But anyway, so there's that. But then Chelsea. Well, before I ask you about the other silver lining, what are your thoughts on that? Yeah, we were talking just before we went on, and you weren't even very encouraged because it was just like, well, you explain it.
We're talking still about the ethics move.
We'll still talk about the ethics move, and then you can talk about the other thing, yeah.
I don't know which other thing. You're going to have to spell it out
Andrew
for me.
Cuomo.
Oh, yeah.
The college,
Hey, don't steal my thunder.
Spoiler alert, Scott.
Okay, so, I just don't know how to like Republicans very much at this point. And that I want to separate being conservative from believing in this Republican Party. Is this Republican Party?
I think a lot of conservatives do that as well. They want to make very clear the line in the sand between the two.
I mean, it's just, they have just so blatantly listen, we want to do whatever the fuck we want to do. We don't want anyone looking over our shoulder. We don't want to be reported. No allegations. We don't want the public to know about what we're up to. And this was a bipartisan group that was created in 2008 because of corruption that landed 3 Congress members in jail. So this body didn't even have subpoena power. It doesn't really have much teeth, but they're just reviewing things, and if it is warranted, pass it on to the ethics committee. And so for them to do this as their very first move is well, I mean, why don't you tell us how you really feel? There's no hiding it, what they're up to. And if they're this brazen with their moves, now I'm like, what the hell do they have planned for tomorrow?
Well, it should be at least be encouraging that they were held accountable to it and had to back down. Now, that doesn't mean that the next thing, you know,
I mean,
maybe
or was
maybe
this
they
a-
went
was
so
this a
big on
ploy?
this that we won't even notice the next thing.
Was this
but-
a ploy to like
Right.
make Trump look like the hero that he stopped this? I mean, I don't even know, in this like cloud of crap going on around me. I'm like, I can't even see straight. And so I listen to this kind of stuff and I'm like, you know, I'll make calls and I'll show up to the protest, but I can't get myself like wound up like I see a lot of people like are in just this hyper vigilant, like,
I mean,
oh my God mode. And it's
you can't spend 4 or I'm sorry to say even 8 years in
Yeah.
that frame
it's
of mind. You gotta-
exhausting and
yeah.
unsustainable. And so I'm trying to figure out a way where I can be like, look at that. That's interesting. I'm going to be no on that very strongly, but I'm not going to lose my mind over it, because otherwise I'll be losing my mind probably 2 or 3 times a day for the next at least 4 years.
I definitely agree. And that's the problem with social media, is that we're basically in the minds of our friends and families and associates and
I'd
coworkers,
wanna-
and we see the daily, not quite daily, but a few times a week, there are people like having very public breakdowns about things that are very important, and then things that are much less important, and you're like, you know, save it for the big ones.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, don't drag us down.
so I'm
We're trying to
really-
enjoy 2017
I'm really
right here.
excited for the passion that's been reignited in
Yes,
politics now
sure.
that people have awoken. Now, I just want them to put that energy to good use, like in terms of like really get educated on the issues, like make yourself a documentary junkie, a book junkie. I was thinking, ooh, Christian, what do you think
Yes.
about this? We could have a book club segment to the show.
I like that idea. Wait, do I
I-
have to read the book?
I'll send you the Cliff Notes.
Thank
like
you.
right now, I'm reading Robert Reich's book, Saving Capitalism. Capitalism for the Many, Not the Few. And it's like such great stuff that's laying out everything years back, how we got to this point. And it's a so far simple read. But that's the kind of stuff that we should be focused on, not this like reactionary, like,
Yeah.
where we're going to be out of breath in 3 days, but like really understanding the issues deep down and attacking those, because all of this stuff is like waves on the surface, and we all need to be like, I can't believe I'm about to use this analogy because I'm a terrible scuba diver. I turned blue even in Maui. Like, we need to go underneath the waves and like the surface part where the water is all slushy, moving around a lot, and go deep down and fix things. I don't know how to continue this analogy very well, but like from the bottom up.
Well,
And getting rid of the ethics office is
Was not gonna do
no,
it.
not
Yeah.
at all.
Well,
because
you-
corruption is the
you're-
very heart of the problem.
right. Well, let's move on to the other issue that was something that you saw as progressive silver lining. Andrew Cuomo. What,
Oh yeah. Okay,
yeah.
so good news for New Yorkers who have a household income of less than 125 grand, which is apparently 80% of New York. I was kind of surprised by that
I think
figure.
a lot of the New Yorkers I know actually have a lower household income than, what was it, 125 grand? Yeah, probably. I would say that they're probably less than
if
that.
they have a household income of under 125, then kids from those families, or I mean, I guess it's not just kids, maybe adults too, will qualify to go to public universities, colleges, tuition free.
Now, obviously, that's great for those families. Is it 2-year, 4-year, or
both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. And I
That's
think
a
that's
big
how
deal.
that's how you have to make these kind of changes, you know, on the state level. State like
Because
New
the more
York that hasn't
educated-
gone broke like California already has, let them take a try at it and see. And it wasn't just Andrew Cuomo. Who else was there?
My favorite Bernie was there.
Oh,
Yeah.
did you draw hearts around the story when you read it? You know,
I mean,
like ideological hearts, not
yeah.
romantic hearts.
Well,
yeah.
and I'm excited. So I was telling you, I didn't tell you the February dates when I'm going to be gone. I may have to miss one of the shows in early February because I'm going to go see Bernie
Where's Bernie going to be that you're going to go see him?
in D.C.
Wow. Yeah, Chelsea has a lot going on. One of the things we'll talk about.
This time I
a little
won't get
later in the show.
arrested.
You say that now.
But I'm going for a conference on spirituality and politics.
I feel like you're going to get arrested.
Maybe.
Both of those things are frowned upon in D.C.
But he's going to be there. He's going to be the keynote speaker.
You going to get an autograph? Do you have a
Autograph? Who wants?
book? You have a book you could have him sign. Yeah.
yeah.
I didn't mean like a headshot. Do you have an 8x10 glossy? No.
I think I want another Well, the last one isn't exactly a selfie. Maybe this one should be a selfie.
See, there you go. You get a selfie. Scott, your thoughts on that for the college kids? the children of New Yorkers who make less than $125,000 or $120,000 getting free college. You think that that's a good trial run on the state level?
No, I do. I absolutely think it's a good trial run, and we've seen Andrew Cuomo kind of tack to the left in his second term. New York State is one of the few states where there are no term limits, so theoretically, he could run again for a third term. He's lost a lot of popularity during the second term, and there were some questions whether, some fellow Democrats would try to compete against him in a primary in 2018. So I think taking on these very progressive policies is important, and I think especially for a state like New York that has such a big population, it's really a great trial run, and I really hope it is successful, because I think at the state level that can prove that this could be something that could be done at the federal level, because I think education like college and vocational training too, not even just college, but I think everyone kind of has to get out of the thought that college is for everyone.
That's
but
true.
Even some kind of vocational training that can be covered for people, and then the next step, is looking at that for healthcare, because I think these are basic things that everybody should be able to have that right and ability to have without going into debt. Student debt is a horrible thing for people, and that they're dragged down for the majority of their lives trying to pay this off, because it never goes away. And so anything that we can do to help, lift up the next generation, or people that want to go back to school and get the degree that they've always wanted, I think is a great thing. So I'm definitely in support of it, and I hope that it actually works out well, and it'll be interesting to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's it's great, because if it goes well, like
California better be right behind them.
Like Romney Care,
Absolutely.
everybody wanted to see if it went well, and
Right.
Essentially did. By the way, we're getting some comments in the chat room. It was very funny. Lauren said, "Can we do Actually, Lauren, it was you. Lauren said, "Can we do an audio book of the month club, please?" Which I think is like,
ooh,
I'm
I
wait a minute,
like
that
it.
might actually be better.
Oh, that would be good. Yeah.
So it's something to think about. But now Scott and Chelsea as well, obviously. So today, the 115th Congress was sworn in. Paul Ryan was reelected House Speaker.
I was wondering, do they listen to the words? Because I listen to the words, and they're like, to defend the Constitution from enemies, foreign and domestic. And I'm like, hey, dude, that's you.
Wow. Yeah, and I mean, I guess depends on who it is
Can you
that's saying
defend the Constitution against yourself? This is a very high-level inquiry that we should embark
Well,
upon.
if you believe some conspiracy theories, maybe they're also not defending us against foreign threats, Russia. So, there's just something to all of it. But look, it wasn't surprising.
Well, they're taking it seriously, but Trump, when he says the same thing, that's going to be a question.
I think Trump might give
I can't
us.
even imagine that. I'm still dreading that.
Trump might give us some yada 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 as he
Do you
speaks.
think he's gonna interrupt the ceremony? He's like, I don't really like that one. Can we skip over that one?
I wrote something different. This is what we're going to say. Maybe one of those. I don't know. Or maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger will come in on the chopper and tell him he's
Oh
terminated.
yeah. Did you watch Ricky last night?
I did not see it, but I know that that's a friend of
stuff.
yours.
Yeah.
Ricky Williams is who we're talking about,
Yeah.
since not everyone knows. Is he still on the show?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. I hope.
Tune in next Monday.
All right.
I
Oh,
think,
yeah,
yeah,
so
it
you
is.
were on the show. I saw that on
was.
Facebook. So since I brought it up, what were you doing? If you're just sitting there watching, or were you involved in one of the challenges? Or?
Not involved in one of the challenges, but watching the challenge. So the first challenge that they had was this applying Tyra's makeup. And so it was men versus the women, and I only got to see the men's because, invited by Ricky. And so we saw the guys apply makeup to women, and it was fantastic.
Well, see, there you go. So you were famous, and I saw
For like
I saw
a split
screen.
second,
Hey,
yeah.
That split second, I'm not gonna lie, is bigger than being here with us. Unfortunately, more people saw you that second.
I
But you get
guess I was getting like those text messages from
like
family across
right,
the country.
I just saw you.
But it will be really great to see. I really love how Ricky's back getting out into the limelight and using his platform for good. And I'm sure we'll have him a guest on this show when we talk about cannabis, because I'm sure that will be
Anytime
an
Ricky
issue.
Williams wants to come on, we will talk exclusively about cannabis. And I have to look and see if 420 is a Tuesday, because if it is, that's what we'll talk about.
I mean, I'm probably going to try and.
You can go ahead and look that up.
It's a Thursday, sadly.
Well, maybe we'll have to do a Thursday show then. Now, Scott, you had sent me a message which was good to see. I think it's a good thing, as far as I'm concerned, that Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, George W. Bush, Laura Bush, they'll all be there at the Trump inaugural. Obviously, it's the weird situation where the former First Lady was beaten by the guy who's getting sworn in. So
Right.
I guess people would be like, oh, I guess that's why Hillary doesn't want to be there.
Why do you
But
think they're going to go?
I think that they feel obligated. It's a sense of, being supportive of the country, being supportive of the office of the president. Because
Right.
there are a lot of, there are, for all the people that hashtag not my president, you can do that if you want to, but there's still a president and that's the guy in it. So you have to respect him. But I'm sorry to tell you, he is actually your president.
Is this the way that the Clintons are trying to like hang on?
Well, that's kind of what I was wondering. If she's just going to be sitting there because at the last possible second, she's still going to be holding
Can
out
she
hope.
like object like at a wedding reception?
Yeah.
Or not the reception, at the ceremony.
At the ceremony.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was wondering. Is she going to just be there because like that's the that's the last moment where she might possibly get a chance to be president? Is if somebody just hands the Bible. You know what? Hillary, why don't you take the oath?
I mean, unless he's like, got y'all.
Yeah.
I'm out, suckers.
Yeah, I'm not doing this for real.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's all been.
I was hoping, I would like her and Bill probably also to just be away from politics for a while.
Who's that, Hillary?
Yeah, Hillary
Yeah.
and Bill. I really liked the, there was an article that went around after Van Jones was talking
Yeah, I
on a
was gonna ask you
CNN
about
show
that, yeah.
about
Right.
how like
Yeah.
the Clinton era is over.
Yeah.
The era
Yeah.
of really moderate, of corporatist, of like, we're not getting all of these corporate donors, but we're getting kind of close and we're walking that trail also. Like, we got to be done with that. We have to move progressively, and the Clintons do not represent that at all.
Right. They don't, but at the same time, like kind of what Christian was saying, it would be really in poor taste for them not to show up. It would make it look like she was a sore loser. I don't know, it's the whole optics thing again that, he is the former president. They're there to watch the quote-unquote peaceful transfer of power. Even though I don't necessarily agree with it, I know there was a whole thing because Jimmy Carter was one of the first ones to mention that he was going to be there, and people were like, oh, no, he shouldn't be there, and what is he doing?
What happened to the Beyonce and whatever
and
concert? Can't everybody go to that? Is that actually
I don't
happening?
think that's actually happening. I think people wanted that to happen. And
wanted to happen, but I think they have to be there to represent. And as much as I don't personally like the fact, I think it would just look very bad on us as Democrats and make it look like a sore loser that they didn't. The only one that's not going to be there is George H.W. Bush because of his health. He's
Well, that's what
not
I was
doing
going to
as well.
say. I don't think Jimmy Carter should be there only because of his health. He's like 96.
Throughout the whole
That's gonna be
campaign,
cold that day.
Republicans said Hillary was sick. She should have just cough and stay home.
Right, but to Scott's point, I definitely understand that it looks bad for the party as a whole, for the brand. And as Lauren in the chat room says, Hillary's in a situation where she's damned if she does, damned if she doesn't.
This is
So-
true.
Think how hard it's going to be for her to be there, though. I mean, that was like her ultimate dream to watch.
Yeah,
this
and she's so
horrible
expected.
creature
Yeah.
take that position is going to be horrible for her. So the fact that she's going, it's got to be absolutely awful and horrible for her personally. But I think, as like you said, for the country, as part of the office of the presidency, it makes sense that these former people that were very important to the party and obviously former presidents should be there.
Yeah,
if they
I
can,
think
even though they may not
when
agree with it.
we're watching the inauguration, when you see a close-up of Hillary, definitely freeze frame it, and you'll see that she has a IV drip of Prozac, basically, to kind of bring her a little bit down from the whole thing, because that's going to be a tough place to be for her.
Awful.
But I don't know. You know what? That tells me she's tougher than people give her credit for, and I don't know. That's the point that I was making about. Is I'm glad to hear that they're all going to be there.
Really?
Well,
could
and
not give a
like I
what.
said, it has very little to do with who the person is. It's respect for the office, which not everybody needs to respect the office, but former presidents should because they know how hard that job is.
Okay, fine. Okay, but can we talk about this? Like, everybody has to accept him. We got to come together. When
Right, it's the normalizing of it. Is that part of was one of my questions too? Is that normalizing him by being there, or is it just, like you said, Christian? Is he just there? Or are they there to support the office of the president? Because
Right, that's how I see it.
The office
yeah.
of the presidency doesn't need to be supported. It exists. It is there. It doesn't need us to validate it.
I don't know. I feel like there was probably a point a few thousand years ago where somebody said, Caesar doesn't really need to be supported. There'll always be another Caesar. We'll be fine.
No, it's not the. Yeah, but the office itself is something that's laid out in a document. It does.
Right.
Whatever.
Well, I think that's why they're there, is the point. And I think it says a lot that these people would be there. And, like Scott said, George H.W. Bush he's not doing as well. And I'm glad for his health that he's not going to be out there. And seriously, Jimmy Carter, come on, just stay home or wear a parka or something. I don't know. I'm
maybe
worried about him.
they all want to see what Kimberly's waiting for, which is Trump's hand burning up when he touches the Bible.
Yeah, what she said. The real Kim K. What she said was, "I'm partially convinced that when Trump swears in as president and has to touch the Bible, that will burn his hand. Maybe he's going to swear himself in a book that he values much more than the Holy Bible, The Art of the Deal by Donald J. Trump."
Jesus.
I don't even know if
Jesus would actually have a problem with that.
But
yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see, and we'll talk next week about our plans for Inauguration Day. But we definitely
we will be here.
Plan to talk about it. Scott, one of the things that
Well,
you
it's
had
a Friday.
It's a Friday, yeah. So it's not 420.
But we
either.
will be doing
it's
a
1:20.
special.
We'll be doing a show that day,
1:20.
and we don't know the time yet, so that's why we're doing it.
I think that one actually I could drink more than the one that I did for
Even though the inauguration
election.
starts at 9 in the morning our time, or
Mimosas.
maybe
Yeah.
especially. Yeah, that's true.
Mimosas,
we could have
exactly.
some mimosas there.
Bloody Marys.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I feel like Steven should be here for that show because that's like he's refusing to take a victory lap, I guess, because he didn't vote for Trump. But at the same time, I feel like he's a lot happier than he's letting on. But we'll have to ask him next time he's on. So the inauguration is indeed coming up. There's only 17 shopping days left, America. So get ready. Now we're here. We talked not last week. We talked last show. A lot of performers are kind of pulling out or not confirming or, really.
I want one of the Rockettes to purposely trip somebody. I don't know. That's not really nice.
Well,
but
there was someone who quit the Mormon Tabernacle Choir so that she didn't have to perform.
Yeah, I want them to kick off
at the same time. It's like, you know what? If you don't believe in it, then that's within your right. You don't have to perform if you don't want to be there. What I don't like is, we sort of joked around about the America's Got Talent. The girl came in second place. That she's kind of getting bullied for saying the president wants me to sing at it. And it's like, she's a kid. I don't know. Stuff like that annoys me. That's not in my notes, so I clearly haven't formulated the thought on that. But it's like if somebody does perform at it, maybe they're just friends of Donald Trump's from before he was president.
Are you serious here?
Well, what?
So
are you upset that Ted Nugent's going to perform? No.
No, but I'm not a fan, so he will not give what I say.
Beyonce doesn't want to be there, so it's fine.
I think that these people are expressing their disappointment and. I mean, it's better to express disappointment over, social media than stop buying their albums. I'm sure that would be a lot more painful for them to lose out on the money.
This is what we talked about 2 weeks ago, last show. Garth Brooks is like, I got a lot of people. I don't just have good old boys who buy my albums or come to my concerts. So yeah, I'm out. Storage Yard resident says that January 20th, Trump will be the president of us all, even including everyone in the chat roll. So keep that in mind, chat roll. But also earlier, Storage Yard resident said he can't wait to see what we all have to say when Trump is the greatest president of all time. And if that happens, you know what? I'll be happy to say, what? Well, that guy really, you know what? That was the greatest trick that Trump pulled. He surprised us.
He will
so keep your eyes on
try
us,
to convince us all that he
Right.
is responsible for great things happening, and everything that goes wrong will not be his problem, will not be his fault. It was somebody else's.
Well, that's kind of what the president always does, I mean,
he will do it to a degree never seen before in our history.
Still blaming George Bush for things. So,
well, but there are some things
that's what I'm saying.
that were George Bush's fault.
Right, exactly.
But taking credit for things.
Yeah, he will definitely take credit for things.
And I'm concerned for a lot of the uber Trump supporters who will have a hard time saying, "Oh yeah, you know what? I was wrong." because
Well-
they get so invested that they will delude themselves right alongside with him.
To that point, Storage Yard resident there in the chat room, who's been with us from the beginning of Trump versus Hillary, we appreciate him always being with us. My question to you is, do you have a criticism, just one, I'm just looking for one criticism of Donald Trump, something he's done during
That
the
he
campaign.
didn't run 8 years ago?
No, just anything, and it's just interesting to know if you're able to say, like, this is the thing that bothers me, because Chelsea was very upfront about things that she didn't like about Hillary. I'm sure if I gave you the whole day, you could think about something you didn't like about Bernie.
Sure.
But, I don't want you to talk badly about your
My lover.
BFF. Yeah, exactly. Chelsea Sanders. He's married, though, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah, well,
Jane's a lucky woman.
Yeah, she sure is. But anyway, so it's interesting, I guess, that I feel bad that some little girl who's going to sing our national anthem, by the way.
Well, she should think very carefully.
Well, she shouldn't have to think very carefully.
Why?
'Cause she's
We
a
should
kid.
all be thinking very critically
Yeah.
right now.
Well, and that's, let's...
The lack of critical thinking is what got us here in the first place. So
Now-
let's,
Exactly.
Now, the lack of critical thinking on the part of genius Robbie Mook and people who said that Hillary didn't need to go to Wisconsin, that's the lack of critical thinking that certainly contributed
I'm
to
saying
it.
even deeper.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
just
saying
saying,
even-
look, there's a lack of critical thinking across the board. I'm saying just don't forget that Hillary turned over a campaign to people who did not think very critically. They were just like, oh, well, we're going to win. Let's try and win bigger by, taking Georgia and maybe Texas. And, if you look back at some of the shows that we did before, right after the conventions, there was actually a topic that was like, so Texas going to stay red?
Right, we
So,
did.
yeah, so we were all high. So we'll send those shows to Ricky. In any case, we're dwindling on time. We still have some
How
time.
did this happen?
We just have so much fun, and we start talking to our friends in the chat roll. But it's all right. There'll be other things.
Yeah, Kimberly, you're totally right.
One thing. Well, now say what she said.
Well,
for
that
our listeners on
that he's
iTunes.
taking credit for things that he has nothing to do with, and he's not going to
Right.
stop. He is who he is. And I shared today, and I should probably tweet it, the guide for dealing with people with narcissistic personality disorder,
You should tweet that.
which
Well,
I thought was going to be
let's-
removed from the DSM.
Let's talk
but-
about something that's a silver lining for factory workers. And Ford was going to build a factory in Mexico. And now they're going to invest money in Michigan. And you can say, like, all right, well, that's a step. Maybe they didn't do enough. They could have done more. But there's going to be a lot of people who have jobs in Michigan that weren't going to, that will say, this is a great thing. So, obviously, Trump's not president yet. So you'd think maybe he can't take credit for it. I think that Ford might feel that there's going to be some tax laws and things that might be a little bit more beneficial than what they thought. The fact of the matter is, this is good news. I like to highlight the good news. So I'm happy for those people, and I'm sorry, Mexico, you can build a factory for something else. This doesn't mean you don't get a factory. You just don't get a factory to build our products. Some big Mexican company can certainly ask you to start putting together a product. I'm trying to not make
Tweet it, everybody. Go to-
illegal drug references here because I'm scared of the cartels. But Scott, you hear about this move by Ford, and what are your thoughts? Do you feel like this is a good move, or do you think it's not enough?
Honestly, I don't think it's enough because I think it's going to be bounced out by automation in the factories, and I think it's a great PR move for Trump. It's again a great, what we always say, the optics, because he's saying, oh, we're saving a couple hundred jobs here, 1,000 jobs there. But in reality, until we actually see this with a lot of companies, this is not going to make a big difference when hundreds of thousands of new jobs are created every month right now with the economy. Because if the economy starts going down, it's going to be a lot harder. And the fact that he's calling out people and companies is not really the best tactic. Even there's been some sides of people saying that he's actually, for his rich friends, calling out certain companies because then their stock prices go down. And there's a lot of other little seedy things that might be going on. But yes, it's great whenever we can save jobs. But I think this PR thing of every day of some little thing coming out, like he's saving a little bit, is not really is not really what the president is and should be focused on. He needs to be focused on the big picture, not calling out little things here and there. It's in my opinion, it's just not going to work in the long run. It may look nice, but it's not going to work big picture wise.
Right. I think that we see this as something that, should it be a trend that continues, it will be great news. For now, in the micro, it's good news for people whose lives will be directly impacted. It would be great to see more of it, but we need to see more of it. Now, Storage Yard resident did answer my question, and he said, Trump fault, keep all abortion rights for women. Now, are you saying that he shouldn't keep abortion rights for women? Or are you saying that you think he should? I think you're saying that. I think you're saying that you don't want him to keep abortion rights for women, but I'm not quite sure. And you also said that he may not deport enough illegal aliens. So see, that made Chelsea laugh. So you see, Storage Yard resident, I like that guy. He's very funny. So, but yeah. So just because I asked, he answered. That's what we like about him. There's a bunch of other stuff to talk about. One thing I want to make sure we get to is Donald Trump said that Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel should seek federal help, possibly the National Guard, because the Chicago murder rate is record-setting. 4,331 shooting victims with 762 murders in 2016. If Mayor Rahm Emanuel can't do it, he must ask for federal help. That sounds to me like there's some history between those two that we have no idea about, and Trump just really has it in for him. But at the same time, if the problems in Chicago escalate, is it ridiculous to think, hey, I need help? Should he ask for the National Guard?
I mean, it would be more presidential to say, Chicago, I see that you are in trouble. You know, the federal government is here. We are willing and able to offer whatever resources that you need. But to inject that you must get the federal government's help is just not true.
I think that
it's invasive of states' rights, which Republicans love to talk about.
If he needs the help, he should ask for it. But I think that, I don't know, they must feel like they have a solution for the problem there. I mean, I was just reading about something earlier today that
I don't think the solution is more oppression.
Right. Well,
I
was reading about.
It's a militarized. You don't need a National Guard to militarize an area. You need to start at the local level. You need to work on police resources and putting them in areas that are affected by the violence, instead of coming in and bringing in an outside military type National Guard. That's not the solution.
So we can have the National Guard like doing all these
money to help train more police and more local activists, but it starts at a local level, and that's where
I do think you need to do it on a local level, because what I was going to say is I was reading just earlier this evening about WPIX Channel 11 in New York. They have this page on Facebook where they will post old videos and things. And their newscast from January 1st, 1980, there had been 11 murders in New York City that day. And if anybody who is a little bit older like me remembers that New York City in the 1980s and even the early 90s is not the bright, shiny Disneyland that it is now. And it took a lot of time. And Chicago 2017 is nowhere near as bad as New York 1980. And I feel like there are definitely steps to be made. I don't know what it is. I just know that everybody that I know who lives in Chicago or Illinois talks about how corrupt all those officials are, regardless of party lines. And it's very hard to make any kind of real legislation change. Rahm Emanuel, I don't even know why he wanted to be mayor of Chicago. I think he just thought it would be cool, to go from working in the White House to that was the next natural step. So I don't know what the solution is, but I hope that the people of Chicago find it.
It's kind of like the problem that we have in the entire country, is cleaning up the corruption in the system.
Right. Which somebody talks an awful lot about, if I could only think of his name. That guy who ran for president talks a lot about it.
But if you look at some of the shootings, I mean, like some of the police shootings in Chicago are just outrageous, like Laquan McDonald, and then Rahm Emanuel not wanting to release the video. So that's the thing that breaks down the trust between the public and police. And just recently there was another case where he did release the video, but it's a problem of corruption on the local level that the federal government can't fix, because the federal government is afflicted by the same problem. And the part of the corruption is the fact that there are still, and I wonder what Trump's going to do with the private prisons. So Obama said that under the federal prisons, we're not going to renew contracts with private prisons. Trump may reverse that. But a lot of the problem in inner cities has been feeding of people straight into the prison pipeline. So there's a whole, I mean, it is a bigger thing, and Trump and the federal government is not going to fix it. What does he want? The military to go in there and start stopping and frisking everyone? That's not going to help.
Scott, what were you going to say about this?
Well, no, I was going to kind of carry on to what Chelsea was saying, and the fact that yes, it's not an easy solution because there's corruption at every level, and Illinois is actually unfortunately known for that. From the state government with the governors to the city machine. They always had the Democratic machine when Daley was there, and the Sun, and it was just known as being very corrupt. But again, there's so many things going on in the prison industrial complex, down to the police and the police brutality, and getting the trust of the local citizenry with the police. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen. There are no easy solutions, but it definitely has to start at the local level. It definitely has to start with Chelsea was saying.
The funny thing is it's
not the trust that,
easy. They're simple solutions, but they're not easy solutions. So,
right.
Because I almost was about to disagree with you and say, no, they really are simple, easy solutions. But some of the simpler things in life to do are not very easy to implement. So
well, that's what I was going to say.
We're on the same page.
And there's a lot of layers involved with it too, because of the different layers. You have the state government, you have the city government, you have the police, you have the prison industrial complex. You have a lot of different areas that also need to clean up with the corruption and everything. So it's not just one thing or one group, and that's what makes it more complicated because of those layers.
Apparently Chicago needs some draining of the swamp.
Well, for any of our listeners live in the chat roll now or just listening after the fact, you can tweet us at Trump Report ABTV. We definitely want to get your thoughts from the local level, anyone in Illinois or the surrounding areas. Sonic Boom Media Group says he lives in Michigan, so he, I guess, or she, I don't know why I assume it's a man, so I think because the picture is a guy. I live in Michigan, so I can relate. What were you going to say, Chelsea?
I was so excited. Storage yard resident, we have a first point of agreement.
Well, go ahead. Say what it is.
The Clintons helped to keep the prisons full with their laws against black people.
Look at you, storage yard resident.
I don't agree exactly with the articulation, but the spirit of it, yes. And although I have to kind of come to their defense because the crime bill was a reaction to everybody being tough on crime, and there have been a slew of Republicans in the White House, and the only way that the Democrats stood a chance of getting in was to join this crackdown on crime thing. So it's true, and it's not totally their fault. Wish we would have reversed course faster.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But it was just a momentous occasion where we agreed.
And by the way, Storage Yard resident earlier did clarify the fact that he supports all women's abortion rights. I just wanted to go on record as to saying that's what it was. But you know what, gang? We're out of time.
This is unbelievable.
I know, it happens every week, but it's good.
And I'm like, now that it's just Christian and I'm going to get to share all of my thoughts.
Oh, so you're saying that Scott stole your time?
No. Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. But I just can't believe.
No, I know.
And it wasn't even that crazy of a week because most people were holidaying.
Yeah. But you know what? Politics doesn't take the holidays off. Anyway, Scott, are you going to be with us in studio next Tuesday?
Yeah.
Yay.
All right, we will see you then. Thank you so much, Scott Moore at SMan80. And for Chelsea Galicia at Chelsea Galicia, I'm Christian Bladt at Christian DMZ. As I said before, we're at Trump Report ABTV. Follow us there, like us on YouTube, comment, rate us on iTunes, and we will see you next Tuesday. And Chelsea, really fast, you're just like 30 seconds, promote your thing. Sorry, I forgot.
Earth to Trump, a resistance roadshow. 16 cities on their way to D.C. The L.A. stop is tomorrow night at 6:30. My gosh, I'm not going to have time to...
Chelsea will tweet it at Chelsea Galicia if you want to look for it, and we'll retweet it at Trump Report ABTV.
Yeah, but come out. I'm going to MC it.
Earth to Trump. She's going to MC it, so make sure if you're in Los Angeles, come check it out.
3818 West Slauson. That's the Global Beat Multicultural Center.
Thanks so much, Chelsea. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time on the Trump Report.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
Almost forgot.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.